It took not even 1 week for Trump to make good on his threat to impose tariffs on a foreign country. Today, the Trump administration attempted to land a migrant deportation flight in Colombia. The Colombian government rejected that effort, causing Trump to post the following on Truth Social. I was just informed that 2 repatriation flights from the United States with a large number of illegal criminals were not allowed to land in Colombia. The order was given by Colombia's socialist president Gustavo Petro, who is already very unpopular amongst his people. Petro's denial of these flights has jeopardized the national security and public safety of the U.S., so I've directed my administration to immediately take the following urgent and decisive retaliatory measures. Emergency 25% tariffs on all goods coming into the United States. In 1 week, the 25% tariffs will be raised to 50%. A travel ban and immediate visa revocation on the Colombian government officials and all allies and supporters. Visa sanctions on all party members, family members, and supporters of the Colombian government. Enhanced customs and border protection inspections of all Colombian nationals and cargo on national security grounds. Treasury, banking, and financial sanctions to be fully imposed. These measures are just the beginning. We will not allow the Colombian government to violate its legal obligations with regard to the acceptance and return of the criminals they forced into the United States. So 25% tariffs have been imposed on Colombia, expected to double to 50% in a week. And as expected, the president of Colombia wasted no time retaliating himself on behalf of his own country. He took to Twitter, posting a long reply, which is translated to read, in part, "I don't like your oil, Trump. You are going to wipe out the human species because of greed. Maybe one day, over a glass of whiskey, which I accept despite my gastritis, we can talk frankly about this, but it's difficult because you consider me an inferior race, and I'm not, nor is any Colombian. If you know someone who is stubborn, that's me, period. You can try and carry out a coup with your economic strength and your arrogance, like they did with Hollande, but I will die in my law. I resisted torture, and I resist you. I don't want slavers next to Colombia. We already had many, and we freed ourselves. You will kill me, but I will survive in my people, which is before yours in the Americas. We are people of the winds, the mountains, the Caribbean Sea, and of freedom. You don't like our freedom? Okay. I don't shake hands with white slavers. I shake hands with the white libertarian heirs of Lincoln and the black and white farm boys of the USA, at whose graves I cried and prayed on a battlefield, which I reached after walking the mountains of Italian Tuscany and after being saved from COVID. They are the United States, and before them I kneel, before no one else. Overthrow me, President, and the Americas and humanity will respond. Your blockade does not scare me, because Colombia, besides being a country of beauty, is the heart of the world. I know you love beauty as I do. Do not respect it, and you will give it your sweetness. From today on, Colombia is open to the entire world with open arms. We are builders of freedom, life, and humanity. I am informed that you imposed a 50% tariff on the fruits of our human labor to enter the United States, and I do the same. Let our people plant corn that was discovered in Colombia and feed the world." And so now, less than 1 week into Trump's second term, the US finds itself in the midst of a trade war. And I've said hundreds of times before, and I will continue to say now, there are no winners in a trade war. When a country imposes tariffs, those tariffs are paid not by the exporting country, but by the importing company. And that company, having incurred added costs now as the result of those tariffs, will pass those costs along to the consumers. That means when a company imports coffee from Colombia, we Americans pay more. That means when a company imports crude oil from Colombia, we Americans pay more. That means when a company imports bananas and pineapples and avocados from Colombia, we Americans pay more. That means when a company imports flowers from Colombia, we Americans pay more. Donald Trump is mad that other countries aren't playing ball with his deportation efforts, and the consequence is that we Americans are punished for it, including, I might add, Trump's own supporters who voted for him, who I presume drink coffee and use oil and eat fruit and buy flowers for weddings and events and participate in our overall economy. Not exactly what I'd call a win. In fact, that's a point that AOC made here. To punish Colombia, Trump is about to make every American pay even more for coffee. Remember, we pay the tariffs, not Colombia. Trump is about making inflation worse for working class Americans, not better. He's lining the pockets of himself and the billionaire class. Senator Gallego reiterated that point. This is a dumb trade war that the Trump administration started. This should have been resolved with a phone call. Trump picked a fight with an ally to look strong. FYI, get your orders in now for roses. We import a majority of roses from Colombia. The reality is that if time seems like a flat circle right now, it is, because Trump already did this once with China in 2018. According to the Tax Foundation, the Trump administration imposed nearly $80 billion worth of new taxes on Americans by levying tariffs on thousands of products valued at approximately $380 billion in 2018 and 2019, amounting to one of the largest tax increases in decades. In fact, here's Tennessee's Department of Agriculture commissioner back in 2019 discussing the impacts of the trade war on farmers and the Trump administration being forced to make those farmers whole by using tax dollars to compensate for him starting a trade war.
60% of our exports were going to China. Trade wars started that effectively lost soybean, corn, took a big hit. I mean, it really, and all farmers in the whole country were affected, and especially those that grow a lot of row crops in West Tennessee. At least some reports that they're making progress with China now. Even if that progress is made and you reinstitute that market, it's going to take some time to get it back developed. Some people say a year or two even after that.
So you think the subsidies that they get, they'll hold out, probably won't go bankrupt, anything like that?
Well, the money that they get's not going to fill the hole completely. We need some movement on and try to reopen that market before we'll be fully whole.
And remember, while this is the first trade war, it is almost certainly not the last. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau came out just days ago promising retaliatory tariffs of his own if Trump makes good on those threats to impose tariffs on our neighbors to the north.
Of course, if the president does choose to proceed with tariffs on Canada, Canada will respond. And everything is on the table. Working in unison with Team Canada, as Team Canada, with business leaders, organized labor, civil society, Indigenous leaders, and premiers from coast to coast to coast, we are prepared for every possible scenario. In fact, just last night, I spoke to Premier Ford in his capacity as chair of the Council of the Federation, and he reiterated his unwavering commitment on behalf of Canadian premiers to working all together. This is an important and challenging moment for Canada and for Canadians. And we know there will be many such moments. Through all of it, I want to be clear that we have Canadians' backs.
All of which is to say, for the umpteenth time, that trade wars have no winners. We will lose here. There is a reason that diplomacy is a better tool than entering office like an unhinged toddler and waging economic war on your allies. Remember, these aren't even our enemies, these are our allies. Trump can parrot America first until he's blue in the face, but the reality is that we live in a global economy. We rely on other countries to keep our economy running, and yes, to keep costs down. And we are better off cooperating with those other countries than we are declaring war on them. And that should be a basic concept that even a child could understand, and yet the fact that Trump doesn't really tells you everything you need to know.